tell you, we just too much in here. I'm telling you. People don't know what they missing. We got it going on. That's our Will. That's our Charles. That's our Trevor. That's our Dexter. Just imagine every day if you went along your life
Church
singing that and
office,
clapping your hands.
church office, good
Just
morning. You're
imagine.
not
Try
muted.
it. Well, you know, it's fourth Sunday, and you know what happens, and thank God we got a fifth Sunday, so Dr. Ron will be with us next week. But on fourth Sundays, on an average, what our assistant pastor does
Somebody's
is he takes what
unmuted.
he hears
On mute,
all
yeah.
month long, mind the great harmonizer, and then he sits with himself, with spirit, to get what's for him to tie all of this month up with. And so without further ado, let us welcome our assistant pastor, Reverend Jerrold Smith.
Good morning. Let me see if I can get my technology to work this morning. Okay, you gonna turn for me? I guess not. All right, we'll do it this way. Before we get into our conversation about mind, the great harmonizer, I want to give a special shout out to a good friend of mine, Larry Ziegler. Larry took the time to create a lot of CDs for me back in the day. So whenever I get in my car and I'm not feeling as good as I want to feel, I reach for one of Larry's CDs and put it in, and it takes me where I need to be. Not only is today his birthday, but my understanding is that he experienced a stroke recently, and I'm sure he's doing okay. I haven't heard otherwise. But I just want to give a shout out to Brother Larry, because he's one of those people that's always thinking about us, always thinking about doing something for someone else. Mind, the great harmonizer. As we talk about mind as the great harmonizer, we should identify just how universal, how all-encompassing, and spiritually inclusive the word mind is. Our human instinct naturally draws a relationship to mind with a capital M and the brain. The brain is actually a creation of mind, a demonstration of mind, and the most powerful human element of the one mind and the presence that we call God. But as a human element, this brain, unlike divine mind, it has physical limitations. It can be infected with disease, it could be affected by emotions, and it could be affected by conditions. While mind, the great harmonizer, is all-knowing, all-powerful, and remains whole, healthy, and complete, regardless of material circumstance or human reaction. The brain, like everything else, can reflect the perfection of that one mind. Now, for me, Reverend Lisa says, I kind of sit with this thing and see what comes to me. And what came to me is that there are obvious correlations of how the brain works and how God works. The brain is the great harmonizer of your physical body, the mind of your spiritual body, mind and soul. Just as everything begins with a thought in the spiritual realm, so it does in this physical expression. The primary goal of Jesus was to get the mind of man to work in harmony with the mind of God. It's a whole lot of stories in here, but the bottom line to each and every one of them is to get the mind of man to work in harmony with the mind of God. Grace with those same tools and abilities, so he told us. but often we are influenced by material desires instead of our spiritual truth. You see, the Christ consciousness gives us the rhythm to remain in harmony with divine mind. Now, as wonderful as the music here is at LA 3rd, and as entertaining as Will is going to be for us today, when we speak of harmonizing, we're not referring to the great music that we have. We're referring to a combination of complementary truths or parallel narratives that produce unlimited possibilities. These things that we are referring to are corresponding thoughts that can improve the situation or process in such a way to reflect, reveal, and manifest the spiritual values by which we were created. Divine mind and the human brain are different instruments, yet they are capable of playing together in harmony. And guess who is the great conductor of that band? Jesus is the conductor that can direct this spiritual masterpiece. So you know, when I come here to LA 3rd Eye, and Victor mentioned about the themes that Reverend Lisa comes up with, and I think all of you will agree that the best thing about this place is that we come here to learn. And Reverend Lisa and I, and Reverend Paul, and Reverend Amon, and Dr. Ronnie, we speak, but in our speaking, we're teaching ourselves. We're here to learn as well. You see, and in my learning on this particular topic, I came up with some questions to ask myself, and I decided to share these questions with you. So if we pay attention to this platform I have in front of me here, the question is this: is it a coincidence that the brain has 12 cranial nerves that carry messages between the brain and our organs and muscles? Is it a coincidence that Jesus developed 12 spiritual powers so that the concepts of the divine can be exemplified in the body of man? I got another question for you. Is it just happenstance that the frontal lobe of the brain controls our decision-making, our problem-solving, our self-control, our conscious choice, and our emotions? Is it just happenstance that the forehead is also where will and understanding, Matthew and Thomas, is positioned? One more question. Is it just by chance that our centralized limbic lobe regulates our emotion, our fear, our motivation, and our aggression? And somehow faith and imagination, Peter and Bartholomew, reside in the same neighborhood of the brain, while Simon's zeal resides just a few millimeters away. Call me crazy, but I think that it's no accident that the remaining 7 powers under the direction of the Christ consciousness were strategically positioned to have a spiritual impact on the regulation of our body processes. Philip's voice brings power to our word. John's heart shows love to all of a fellow man. Andrew provides the strength to overcome any physical abnormality. James of Zebedee is the wisdom and discernment of our gut instincts, while James of Alphaeus remains in an orderly system. Thaddeus executes the digestion and the release of all that we don't need anymore, while Judas, who's supposed to conserve our eternal life until his greed had him banished for the gratitude of Matthias. Call me crazy, but I believe the disciples represents the physical brain and the body under the influence of the divine harmony of what we call the Christ consciousness. Yeah, our Reverend Lisa, she does a great job coming up with these theories. She not only comes up with the theory, but she gives us some insight into where she's thinking. That's why she told us that our Father is the creative source that allows us to see our truth. She told us that God delivers us from condemnation with love for all being his only motivation. Yet there are those of us who hold fast to this notion that their belief is the only one that God supports. And they use that attitude to control or eliminate everybody else. I wasn't that good of a student, but I can remember my history classes. And if you think about what we learned in elementary school, all of the destruction, all the mayhem, all of the genocide, all the terrible stuff that happened in this world was based on somebody thinking that their religion was better than somebody else's. We all need a mental and spiritual healing of our physical expression to find harmony and peace. We don't need to be on the left, nor do we need to be on the right. We need to find a way to work in harmony together. God can do great things through scientific means, and even greater things through a natural process. Reverend Lisa told us that it takes intention to do something, but it takes action to create something. To create paradise, to create the life and the dream that we all aspire, harmony and balance must guide our spiritual activity. Want to change your life, she said? Try surrendering your intellect to your intuition. Want to experience a miracle, she said? Trust what you can't see. Mind, the great harmonizer, allows us to see with our imaginative power. The great harmonizer allows us to smell with our intuitive knowing. The great harmonizer allows us to taste with our divine understanding. The great harmonizer allows us to hear with a spiritual vibration. The great harmonizer allows us to touch with a natural healing power. And then my brother, make it plain, Reverend Paul Meigs. He always gets my attention. He told us that we have access to all knowledge and power. There is nothing that we cannot access through mind, the great harmonizer. He told us that divine mind as God will provide all the information that you and I will ever need. He encouraged us to pray without ceasing. And to pray without ceasing is simply to ask without doubting. He encouraged us to stop living like we on borrowed time. Think about that. Everybody's in a hurry to do the same thing all over again. So instead of living on borrowed time, instead of thinking that we're going to run out of time, he told us that live like you own your time. And tell your time what you want it to do. Now that's a profound statement right there. He said we are all instruments of the great harmonizer. The question is, what music do you choose to play? You see, for life allows us to be the witness and participant. When we spend too much time looking around, take the time to look within, he said, and create what you see in yourself. Alan said, if you don't love yourself, the rest is a waste of time. But the thing that I like so much about Reverend Paul, and that's why I call it Mr. Make It Plain, he didn't just tell us what to do. He told us how to do it. He said, open up your heart. Have some compassion and some empathy. He said, practice the presence. Do a little deep breathing and a little meditating. He told us to embrace all of creation. Have a sacred experience with nature. Some of us stay inside too much. We need to go outside and look around. I know you think you can't walk too far, but take a hike. Drive as far as you can drive up in the mountains and then get out and look around a little bit. Embrace nature. And then he said, we have to surrender to the dance of life. All he was telling you is you got to appreciate all the life lessons. You know, you can't just line dance all the time. You got to cha-cha and mambo a few times. You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember the twist and the jerk? You have to embrace this thing. Surrender to the dance of life. Participate in all of it. And then he told us you have to serve as a witness and a steward. What he's telling us is that we have to observe what's going on, but then we have to turn around and direct what we want to happen. Don't just let the wind blow you in any direction. Make a choice of the direction that you want to go. Amen. He reminded me of something that I used to hear a lot when I was in radio. We had this engineer, Bob Canner, a great guy, and he would always tell us about radio waves. And you know, radio waves, y'all got your cell phone somewhere close? Radio waves are everywhere. You don't see them. You don't feel them. But if I turned on a transistor radio right now and started turning the dial, I could turn to hundreds of radio stations and you would hear every one of them. That means that you are surrounded by this something, by this mind, by this great harmonizer. What he's told us was intelligence is everywhere. Intelligence is like radio waves. It's all around you, but guess whose job it is to tune in? You have to turn the dial and select the station in life that you want to possess. Alan gave away a text earlier, and in chapter 8 of that text, it talks about the power of thought. It talks the power of the brain, but the power of mind, the great harmonizer. Ernest Holmes tells us that unless we discredit all human testimony, we must conclude that the bodily healing of all manner of sickness by mental and spiritual means is a fact. Unless we just gonna ignore everything that we've experienced in this thing called life, there is something greater that can fix anything and has fixed everything. The belief and acceptance of all mental healing is being increasingly approved and as a legitimate and useful healing asset. He tells us that the possibility of healing physical disease, changing your environment, attaining friends, and demonstrating supply through the power of right thinking rests entirely on the theory that we are surrounded by infinite mind which responds to the thoughts according to law. Remember those radio waves? He said healing is a universal science of the mind. So now you know where Ernest Holmes got that from. Healing is the universal science of the mind. In my quest for wholeness and completeness, over the past 3 years, some of y'all don't know this, but Reverend Jerrold's gonna tell you. Over the past 3 years, I have seen a urologist, a rheumatologist, a hematologist, and a rheumatoidologist. My primary physician specialty is cardiology. And one of my best friends is an ophthalmologist. And he made some new glasses for me, and I forgot to get them, so I can barely see. But over the past 3 years, I have spent an extensive amount of time in the offices of all of those people. But simultaneously, I was also experiencing hydrotherapy. I was also spending a lot of time with my chiropractor. I was also spending a great deal of time with my massage therapist. I also take time to talk to my herbalist every once in a while. I'm not afraid to visit my acupuncturist, and I've even seen an iridologist. I don't leave nothing out because I realize the truth. Mine is the great harmonizer. And all of those who I mentioned, they are all practicing traditional or natural medicine. But the reality is that my healing awaits my recognition, my unification, my acceptance, my faith, and my gratitude that the mind, the great harmonizer, knows no imperfection. That's when things get fixed. I'm not telling you not to go see the doctors. I'm not telling you not to spend time with the natural healers. What I'm telling you is until you change your mind, until you connect with that great harmonizer that you were born, you were birthed into, that you were created with from day one, you're not going to fix yourself. When I bring my thoughts and actions and emotions into physical, mental, and spiritual balance, a complete healing will result. Now, don't get it twisted. We don't create anything. The power of the one mind creates all things. It says in that text that he handed out, it says the law of life is the law of thought. He said, the man who dares to fling his thoughts into universal intelligence with the assurance of one who realizes his divine nature and its relation to the universe and dares to claim all that there is will find an ever-creative God at hand to aid him. God will honor your request. But we must keep in mind that there is one infinite principle, one infinite thought, one infinite creative power, but countless numbers of forms, which change as the specific idea behind them changes. So nothing changed but our thinking. The Bible points out that man has the same power in his own life and his own word that it claims to be only for the divine. Jesus said, what? Whatever I'm doing, you can do. Whatever God created you from is available to you to use. The Word was with God, and the Word was God, Scripture says. An often repeated and little understood statement. The promise to man is equally as positive. One scripture that I'll point to is Romans 10:8. It says, the word is nigh thee, even in thine own mouth, that thou should know it and do it. So if you know it, if you research it as we were told to do, then you have to do what? You got to use it. You got to do it. He says, if any word has power, it follows that all words have power. Every word that we speak, every word that we think, every word that we hear has power. So when we speak into this mind, we sow a seed of thought into an absolute, and we rest in that peace. For what? It is done unto us as we believe. Yes, mind with a capital M. is the great harmonizer. And as man thinketh, so is he. Joseph Murphy wrote a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And in that book, here's what he tells you. There are many different approaches, techniques, and methods in using this universal power. But there's only one process of healing, which is faith. For according to your faith, it is done unto you. As we reiterated a little earlier, there's an unbreakable bond between God and the given instrument of thought that we refer to as the brain and the great harmonizing mind of God. They can't be separated. In many spiritual and philosophical traditions, however, the concept of mind is viewed in a broader and deeper sense than simply brain function. It often encompasses elements beyond thought and reason, reaching towards a more profound aspect of our being. The soul is often seen as an immaterial essence of a living being, encompassing a consciousness, an emotion, an identity, and a connection to something greater than our physical self. While sometimes used in an interchangeable with the soul, the word spirit can carry a slightly different emphasis. It may represent the animating force, that vital principle of a divine spark that lies within each and every one of us. And then there's our psyche, which originates from the Greek. It refers to the soul, mind, and spirit as an invisible, animating entity within the body. It's often used to describe the totality of one's mind and inner experience. Reverend Paul makes this plain. He says there's a higher self, a true self, and an inner self. These terms are often used to denote a more awakened, aligned, and authentic aspect of oneself, transcending the ego and ordinary awareness. This represents a connection to universal mind, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of our purpose. You see, in a spiritual context, we can refer to the perception of existence itself, extending beyond the individual thought to a universal collective awareness. Spiritual traditions often emphasize the cultivation of a higher consciousness or expanded awareness. You see, it's important for us to note that these nuances that exist, these distinctions between these terms can vary significantly across different spiritual traditions and philosophical schools. However, they all point towards a dimension of our being that is deeper and more profound than merely intellectual, analytical mind. There has to be something greater. We hold to the principle that there's only one mind, and that mind is God. There are a great many words in this book, the Old Testament and the New, that refer to this mind. A lot of them use the word heart in correspondence with the mind. Sometimes the word heart refers to the actual physical organ, but many times it refers to the inner being, the seat of the will and the seat of our emotions. Today, we often set the mind and heart against each other as when we say things like, even though he knew in his mind that it was a bad idea, he had to follow his heart. Y'all, am I the only one? Huh? Am I the only one that knew I was doing the wrong thing? I knew she wasn't the one, but I had to follow my heart. Likewise, sometimes we speak of the head knowledge versus the heart knowledge. There are simply modern conventions that differentiate intellect from emotions. In ancient times, the distinction seems to have been less emphasized. The heart and the mind are referred to in the same context when you think of them in the context of all that there is, which is the divine mind, the great harmonizing mind. Now, I know y'all get sick of me, but they would take my picture off the wall at Miracle Baptist Church if I didn't do this. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. It says, "But as it is written, the eye has not seen, and the ear has not heard, and the heart of man has not conceived the things which God has prepared for those who love him. But God has revealed them to us by Spirit. For Spirit searches everything, and even the depths of God. For what man knows the mind of man, save the spirit of man which is in him. Even so, no one knows the mind of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of this world, but the Spirit of God, that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. For these things which we discuss are not dependent on the knowledge of words of man's wisdom, but on the teaching of the Spirit, thus explaining spiritual things to the spiritually minded." So if you don't get it, we need to focus more on mind, the great harmonizer. For the material man, that's us, when we don't know our truth. The material man rejects spiritual things, that they are foolishness to him. Neither can we know them because they are spiritually discerned. But the spiritual man, that's everybody in this room, discerns everything, and yet no man can discern him. For who knows the mind of the Lord, that we may teach it? But we all have the mind of Christ. Now, Paul was talking to the Corinth, and those are people who were based on love. So that's why he used the word heart to define this great mind that we're talking about. This passage tells us to comprehend mind, the great harmonizer, requires a higher state of consciousness. How does man become conscious of divine mind? We become conscious of divine mind through approaching it or thinking upon the ideas of divine mind. How is the original good, that which we were created to do, how is that manifested in our life? The original good of the great one mind is constantly expressing itself through man as he cooperates with mind principle through thinking about it. Now, we all know there are two phases of mind, cause and effect. What quality of mind is essential in dealing with causes? All of us experiences issues every now and then. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what caused the issue instead of figuring out how to solve the problem. The development of understanding is essential in knowing to unfold the consciousness in an orderly and in a definite manner. What are the three departments of man's consciousness and how do they function? The three departments of your consciousness are intellect, emotion, and physicality. The intellect functions through the head, the emotions through the heart, and the physical through the body. How does man merge his consciousness with the absolute? How do we tie all this thing together? How do we use the mind as the great harmonizer? We have to merge our consciousness with an absolute harmonizing of all ideas and the unlimited ideas of the Christ mind. This is accomplished through understanding divine mind and all of its laws. All of this requires a deeper understanding of the mind, the great harmonizer. So our brain mirrors the mind, the great harmonizer, in the way it controls our body functions. But if we want to go to the next level, we have to do what? We have to put down the physical and uplift the spiritual. So I don't care how many doctors you visit. I don't care how many prescriptions you take. I don't care how many challenges you face. I don't care how many miracles you receive. There's only one thing that you need to always focus on doing. And that is to do as Jesus set out for all of us to do. Get our material selves out of the way. Forget about the immediate gratification that appeared to us in that garden that had everything. Because it messed us up. It made us think more about ourselves than we think of others. It made us want to achieve a high stature in life versus helping somebody save somebody's life. It got us twisted in what's important and what isn't. But when we go back to the original mind, the great harmonizer, then we can make the right choices. Then we can move away from that material attraction and focus deeper on our spiritual understanding. When we do these things collectively, when the collective mind of humanity gets on the right track, everything that you read about, everything that you hear about, everything that you spend all day talking about it will cease to exist. The answer is not a church. The answer is the church. The answer is the Christ consciousness. The answer is unconditional love. The answer is not saying that this is right or this is wrong. The answer is realizing how we can come together with an understanding that allows some flexibility for everybody to think how they want to think, believe how they want to live, do what they want to do without harming anyone else. When we do that, then we will totally embrace mind, the great harmonizer. Thank you so much.
That was a great spiritual meal. Let's give our assistant pastor some more love. Thank you, Reverend Jerrold.